especially the practicality part of it, because Trump, I think people kind of forget his record a little bit. When you think about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, it was how many judges did Trump get on that Supreme Court?
Three.
Exactly. He got a lot. And I definitely think that contributed to why it was overturned in the first place.
Good day, everyone. Hey, this is Youth Bombs, the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. I am Coleman Bunn.
I'm Michael Andre.
I'm Craig Anderson.
Okay, so we are going to bring up a topic that my friend Vince Dow brought up on his YouTube channel, which was Trump on abortion. Did he take the right stance politically, the wrong stance politically? Why are people angry about it? On both sides, we're going to get into it. So, recently in his campaign, he made an announcement saying, okay, people are asking me, or should I do the Trump voice? No. Okay. Well, we'll say, okay, what do people say about abortion? Why are they saying my stance is on abortion? What is my stance on abortion?
Under my leadership, the Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, and healthy American families. We want to make it easier for mothers and families to have babies, not harder. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, conservatives, Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious baby.
I'll tell you. So, my stance is I'll at least do the hands, right? Because the hands are fun. So the hands are fun. I'll do the hands. The stance is we got it to where a point that all legal scholars agreed is a great place to be. Instead of having it dictated by the federal government, we now have it across the states. Now the states can decide whether they want abortion to be like liberal or conservative, and people are happy about that, so we're going to keep it that way. And I'm just going to take the stance on whatever the state decides, that is the law of the land. And that also being said, he also made a point that, well, the Republican Party is the pro-family party. It is a family that party that supports, to this point, he named surrogacy. And he also, well, of course, we've seen from his record that he gives or yields good economic conditions for which we could actually raise families in, because babies cost money. So, and we need to be able to make a living in order to support a family. So, that being said, let's see. But then the other part of it is with these really staunch conservatives, especially those who are Christian, they're like, we can never compromise on abortion. Really? It's life. We cannot compromise on life. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, the thing is, right, if Trump loses, abortions increase exponentially.
Yep.
Right? Biden and the Democrats codify Roe into law, and they say abortion on demand at any point in time, maybe even post-birth abortion, which is what the former governor of Virginia was talking about a couple years ago. So, disaster. Trump, I understand his position, and I think he's being practical. We won't win, or it reduces our chances of winning with a abortion ban at the federal level, because we've seen in red states, unfortunately, the referenda on abortion, the left keeps winning. The pro-abortion side keeps winning, even in deep red states. So what are we to do about it? The problem is we want to protect life, but how can we do that best? How can we protect as much life as possible? And in Florida, it's going to be on the ballot. So be sure to vote to protect life in November.
Michael, what are your thoughts?
So I agree with a lot of that, especially the practicality part of it, because Trump, I think people kind of forget his record a little bit. When you think about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, it was how many judges did Trump get on that Supreme Court?
3.
Exactly. He got a lot. And I definitely think that contributed to why it was overturned in the first place. And you look at 2022, for example, we were supposed to perform really well there, right? And then, of course, Lindsey Graham goes out and he starts talking about a federal abortion ban, and I'm pretty sure that
Scared
really
people.
mobilized a lot of liberal voters to the point where it started to overrule even how poor the economy was doing. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and really, like you said, Trump. Personally, I really don't. I'm sure he's if it was really up to him, he would probably start maybe going for a federal abortion ban. But he understands that there's a lot of people, even on the right, women particularly, that they just don't want an abortion ban, and so we do have to compromise on this issue, at least for the time being. Once Trump is in office, then we can start really talking about whether or not we want to make the abortion ban 15 weeks, like closer to DeSantis's. What's the word I'm looking for? Discernment of when abortion should be legal.
Well, well, it's not. Remember, he's making a point that this is going to be a state's issue going forward. I don't. Well, you really think he's gonna try to bring it back in the federal conversation?
Well, I do. I definitely think it's possible because I mean, and it really depends on of course how voters start to really think about it. Some of their views could shift obviously more to the right, maybe more even to the left.
Yeah.
And like most presidents, I think he'll kind of go based off that. But I like to think that to a certain extent, he will eventually try to push the issue further right.
Okay.
Like I said, that's just a personal prediction, nothing set in stone.
Okay. I guess one more thing I will note, then I'll pass it back to you, Craig, is that since 2022, even in the deep red states, right, we're talking Ohio, Kansas, Kentucky, and Montana, abortion referendums failed in all those 4 states. So I guess even if abortion just doesn't seem to be a winning issue in the deep red areas, like even though they're deep red, why do you guys not think they're winning there?
I think it mobilizes the left-wing voters.
Okay.
But also the wording can be done poorly. I believe that in Kansas, the wording of the question was done poorly, and that led to a reduced number of people voting to protect life. Ultimately, I think that we need to show that the Democrats are radical on abortion, that they want to rip the baby out of the womb at 9 months for any reason at all, and that's insane. And we have to stop that and protect life. And that's going to show that Republicans have the sensible position on abortion, that we're protecting life and helping build strong families rather than killing infants right before they're born.
Yes, well, of course, I naturally would agree. It's just, after 50 years of Roe v. Wade, I think that a lot of women just, it's kind of, I wouldn't say that's how they're brought up, obviously, because many of them, I'm sure, are raised in Christian households and are very much against it. But just outside of that, from a societal standpoint, it's, a very... Sorry, I'm not talking into the mic?
Yeah, there you go.
My bad. But anyway, it's very much a, societal standpoint. It's very hard pressed to find someone who, can't really, I should say, they always have some leniency for abortion, whether it be an exception or whether it even be, like the rape or incest exceptions.
Yeah.
Which do only make up about 1%. Just for the fact of it. But many are just sympathetic to the other 99% that, maybe they're very young, maybe they're in college, maybe, people argue they have their whole life ahead of them. It's after 50 years of sort of that sort of talking, it's very hard, I think, to kind of get that out of, the mind of a lot of liberal voters, once again, particularly women.
But Michael, you do not have a uterus. What gives you the right, rather, to have an opinion on this?
Of course, men contribute to the making of the child just as much as the women. I think it's a very silly talking point for anybody to be saying that, I mean, I suppose, for the sake of the argument, to play devil's advocate, I do kind of get it, but at the same time, it's complete nonsense because, you wouldn't carry that child without a male. And if you really want to get into it, chances are, like I said, barring that 1% that's rape and incest, you probably chose to go ahead and do this. You had consensual sex, and now you're both having to figure out what you're going to do with this child. It's just the fact of it.
Also, what do you think, Craig? Do men have do men have the right, rather, to have an opinion on this abortion?
Absolutely. Half of abortions are affecting men. And the other thing is that it's not the woman's body, it's the child's body. They're two different people. They're not the same being, right? Like, just because the child is inside the mother doesn't mean that they're the same person. Other question is, should the woman get a man's permission for the abortion? How do we feel about that?
Of course.
Well, I would just counter and say, like, there shouldn't be an abortion, period. But I guess if you're getting an abortion, yes, you should talk about it with your boyfriend or husband, and hopefully your husband would oppose. So
I agree with that. Yeah, I think as much as we can do to stop abortion and protect life, the better.
Of course, 100%, because it's actually it's very sad. We kind of allowed to happen in our country. Millions upon millions of innocent unborn life just kind of tossed away. It's like I said, very very tragic, honestly, and hopefully as time continues, we sort of drift away from that sort of rhetoric, and we start protecting life again.
So I guess how do Republicans? I guess we talked about messaging in the matter of, okay, we have to show, number one, that Democrats are more radical on the issue of abortion, in the sense that they're willing to go 9 months and beyond to end the life of the child. But I guess besides that, is there anything else that Republicans can do to, like, say, besides just showing the Democrats are bad, showing that, hey, we need to be more pro-life and anti-abortion in general?
I'd say so. I think that people don't know the brutality of the abortions, how harsh they are, how painful they are, how brutal they are. We have to also question how many great people have been aborted. Perhaps scholars, scientists, the person who could have cured cancer, right? We're taking amazing people out of the world, and it's so sad to see. But I think also we need to educate people on the fact that a child's heart starts beating soon after conception, that scholars say life begins at conception, that's a scientific fact. So not everyone knows the details, and they just think of it in terms of convenience, and that's really sad because it shows a profound disregard for life at the end of the day.
Sorry, I didn't know you were going to say something there, Coleman. No, very very much so. I mean, it's, how should I say, as far as messaging, it's really hard especially because a lot of this, while there are some secular arguments, of course, a lot of it is religious.
Right.
It's that's the reality of it.
Yeah, you can just say oh, you're just Christian radicals. Like, don't impose your religion on my body.
And as America becomes more and more secular, and we're naturally just going to become more and more divided on this issue. So I think that as much as as a Christian, as a Catholic myself, I'm all for the religious arguments. When you're trying to message to the left, you really want to try your best, I think, to really start off with some of those secular arguments that you have, because, you start talking about, the right to life, this is an unborn child, you start talking about the divine, in that sense, they're gonna completely disregard you, because it's simply a complete ideological belief, a difference in those beliefs. And like I said, that's really where you want to, I think, in my opinion, push when you're talking to the left, is those sort of more secular arguments against abortion.
Okay. Well, good talk, gentlemen. Now we are going to close. So thank you all for watching. Please hit the like video, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed what we had to say. And also, we have an email. So, let's see. I believe, what do we do with the email, though? What's
read
it
it.
for? You read it. You read the emails?
yeah.
Wow. That's
Of
insane.
course.
What a noble concept, Craig. So we want to hear from you. So find the email. Look it up. It is youthbombs@Alachua Republicans.com.